This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Greg wants to know if Bruce had to choose between Dave Meltzer or Jerry Jarrett to be the head booker, who would he pick?
I said I wasn't going to say anything bad about Dave today.
So you're picking Jerry Jarrett?
Not in a million years.
So it's Meltzer then.
Not in 2 million years.
You got to pick one.
I'm out of business. I never watch it again.
Andy, I love you so much. Andy says, we know Bruce's thoughts on Dave Meltzer. Is there any wrestling journalist that Bruce holds in high regard and has had a good working relationship with over the years? Don't beat up the word journalist. Just tell me a wrestling personality that you actually like. Is there one?
I would see. Here's your where you have to define what's a wrestling journalist, because people that you would think that you call wrestling journalists, I call gossip mongers.
Okay, just tell me anybody in the wrestling business you like.
Do creative writing. They don't actually do journalism.
Have you ever liked anybody, Bruce? Just anybody at all? You hate everyone.
There you go.
Come on. Wade Keller, Dave Scherer, Mike Johnson, Jason Powell, Bruce Mitchell, anybody.
Okay. I can't say, I guess I met the Bruce Mitchell guy.
Yeah. We had dinner with him.
Wade Keller came and introduced himself to me at StarCast and was, very cordial and very nice. But I'm not fond of any of their work by any stretch of the imagination. I've never met whatever guy you said, Dave Scherer, whatever. I don't know who the hell he is.
You don't dislike Mike Johnson. He's always been nice to you.
I don't like his work.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I classify that work in a different way than you do.
Here's an interesting one we haven't talked about in a while. Chris Oldham wants to know, whatever happened to Joel Watts?
Joel, last I heard, was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I spoke to him a few years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a production house, editing and doing things. So, man, Joel's talented guy. Just one of my favorite people in the world and a very, very talented guy.
Jake wants to know, was John Arezzi's radio show from Long Island ever on the WWE radar? Old school ask right there. I like it.
I can tell you that, I've never heard it or ever listened to it. I've heard of it. And I'm sure that, the Fink probably listened to it and everything, but I don't know that I ever listened to a minute of it.
Let's give some context. Some of our listeners may not know who John Arezzi is or was. He's still around, by the way, and does a podcast these days. He's got a Patreon and all that, but once upon a time he had a radio show that was in New York. And I think he even expanded to a few different markets, and he talked sort of, inside wrestling, but he had big time guests all the time. And it was a pretty popular show, especially in the area. Eventually he created, I believe, the wrestling convention, and he had like the first ever wrestling convention, and he had a whole cast of stars, including Ric Flair. So it was a really cool, thing for fans in the Northeast to follow his show and support his show and do the conventions. And when we did StarCast, a lot of people said, "Oh, Conrad's trying to be like the new John Arezzi." And I myself didn't know a ton about John at the time, but I was fortunate enough to meet him and have lunch with him, and great guy, big baseball fan, absolutely loves professional wrestling. And, it's kind of cool to know that he was doing that stuff way back before it was cool in the late 80s.
Yeah. And like I said, I know the name, but I couldn't tell you much about the show at all. Don't think that I've ever heard it.
Here's one about rings. Alex wants to know, do you think we'll see rings built? Go ahead.
Sorry, got to say this. And talking about growing, and I learned yesterday that someone that I blast on here an awful lot, that his mother passed away, and sincerely. Anybody listens to this that talks to Dave Meltzer, Dave, very sorry to hear about your mother, and that's genuine. And just wanted to say that because that does suck. We're all just, we're humans, and I do have feelings, and I'm not a complete asshole. And I just wanted to express my condolences to Dave there for the loss of his mother, and very sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Super sucks. Thoughts and prayers for real go out to Dave. No matter what you guys agree or disagree on, everybody loves their mama.
That's right. We all have moms, and it's tough when you lose them.
John Alba wants to know, what does Bruce believe Pat McAfee's ceiling is as a talent? Could we ever see him working consistently enough to be a top guy?
I don't know that much about Pat. I actually listen to Pat. If you're interested in another great podcast, I think McAfee is tremendous. But who knows? And that's up to Pat. That's a question that people would have to ask Pat as far as what he really wants to do. But highly entertaining, tell you that.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.